Hello and welcome to the Full-Time Creator Podcast, where you'll get wisdom, tips, and inspiration from course creators building their dream businesses. I'm your host, Zach Swinehart, and today I'm here with Jacques Hopkins from the onlinecourseguy.com. Jacques is a course creator and coach who's teaching from over a decade of experience. And one of the things that I think is really cool about Jacques is that his first course business was not some internet marketer teaching internet marketers how to do internet marketing. It was a piano business called piano21days.com, which he still runs. These days, I'll have to fact check this in a second, Jacques, as we chat, but I believe he splits his time, or maybe piano's a little bit kind of more in maintenance mode, but he runs that business still, and he runs his primary business at the onlinecourseguy.com, teaching course creators how to start and scale online course businesses based on his over a decade of experience, 2 different course businesses, and over $4 million in revenue. He's been featured on Forbes, Smart Passive Income, CNBC, Tim Ferris, if you can believe it, and he runs the Online Course Show podcast. I was just checking out before we chatted. He has a really cool episode, 200, with Pat Flynn, where they're talking about new trends in course creation and community-like courses and stuff, and 209 on the Online Course Show. He basically did a solo episode walking beginners step by step through what he'd do if he was starting a new online course business in 2023. That was pretty cool. So with all this pimped up intro out of the way, hello, Jacques, welcome.
Zach, appreciate the invitation. I'm very impressed already. You nailed the pronunciation of my name. You nailed the biography, and you hit exactly right. What I'm proud of is that, I started with a piano course, hobby niche, something that everybody knows about, but it's not teaching money. So I've been in the trenches there. So I think this is gonna be a fun conversation. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here. And I'm glad to nail the Jacques. As much as I wanted to jokingly say all right, I'm here with Jack Way. Welcome, Jack Way. I chose not to, but now I just did.
I've heard it all.
It's lovely. So let's jump off on that point. So you started teaching, this isn't how to be a stage pianist where you're getting paid. It's just how to play piano for funsies, right?
Yeah, exactly. That could be my new slogan. Exactly. Yeah. I get a lot of hate from piano teachers. How could you ever teach somebody, claim to teach somebody in 21 days? It takes years to learn how to play piano. And it just depends on what you're going for, right? And so the average person basically thinks that learning piano for them is inaccessible because they're not naturally musically talented, or they don't have enough time. And so I've made it accessible to that type of person because I'm just showing them how to be competent on the piano. And, it's using the 80-20 principle and cutting out the stuff that takes a long time. There's no sheet music, right? I know you know a little bit about music. No sheet music. I'm just basically teaching people to play piano like a lot of people play guitar with chords and improvisation. And a lot of people don't realize that's a possibility on piano. And it is very realistic to learn that approach in just 21 days.
Awesome. And what has your experience been so far? When you are, suppose you are selling your course that you offer on, how to start a course, or suppose you're working with somebody who's scaling their business and they're already doing well. It's kind of easy to justify your prices because you're I'm going to help you get from this revenue to this revenue. So it's an investment. Whereas this piano thing is hey, wouldn't it be nice to play the piano? So what's your experience been selling something that is kind of close to the money versus something that is more of a hobby?
Yeah, it's harder to justify the value, right? Because you can't in your marketing, you can't explain that exact ROI. You're going to make this back in your first month or whatever. So you've got to convey the value in non-monetary ways. Wow, that was way harder than I expected. And that reminds me back when I first got the idea over 10 years ago. My wife and I were both working as electrical engineers. And so this was way off our radar, so different than what we were doing. And I told my wife about the idea that I had for an online piano course. And she was like, okay, that's kind of cool. She's like, what would you charge for something like that? And I was like, I'm not really entirely sure, but I'm thinking $297, around $300. And she looked at me like I was insane. She goes, who in the hell is going to pay that for that? She thought I was off my rocker. Not about the idea. She was on board with the idea. She didn't think anybody would pay $300 for it. But I was thinking, I listened to a lot of marketing podcasts at the time and tried to learn various things. And pricing is a big sticking point for a lot of people. And I heard very early on that there's a lot of advantages to pricing higher with an online course. You get a higher quality student. You're doing the same amount of work anyway, so why not try to make more money per sale?
Mm,
And those things turned out to be true. So I think I very temporarily launched it at $100 because I was scared. But once I made a few sales, I went up to the 300 mark and was there for a very long time. And a few years ago, I raised it even further, and my highest in package is up to 997, so almost $1,000. And the way that I convey the value is based on the outcome and not the features. It's not piano lessons. It's not how to play piano specifically. It's, hey, do you want the ability to play your favorite songs on the piano in as little as 3 weeks from right now?
mm.
That's what you're paying for 500 to $1,000, not generic piano lessons.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like that emotional thing. I guess I imagine like there's this, I remember it so distinctly. There's this cafe I was at once. You know how cafes just have a piano. And some dude just like walked on up and just fucking played the piano. And I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I want to be that guy. And I guess that's what you're hooking into is that kind of get the end state. And if that end state is worth it, then it's worth the investment.
Yes, be able to do exactly right. Or at a friend's house who has a piano, just be able to pull out a few songs as a party trick, right? I'm
Yeah.
not teaching anybody to be a professional. I'm not teaching them to write music, to aspire to be a concert pianist or professional pianist in any way, because the majority of people don't want to do that, and the resources exist for those types of people. That's what traditional piano lessons are geared for. But yeah, you hit the nail on the head. There's downtown. We travel a lot, and all kind of cities have pianos on the sidewalk in downtown areas or cafes or whatever. And to
Mm,
be able to
mhm.
just pull that out and sound like you know what you're doing, and not have to spend a lot of time or effort to get to that point, is what I'm going for.
Yeah, that's cool. I think I heard once of a guitar course that used a similar hook of like, be able to be at a bonfire and pick up like a guitar and play something like that same emotional experience.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
selling the outcome.
yeah. So with all that said, uh, with your 997 price point, is that with some coaching or support, or is that still just a course?
Yeah, it is. It is. What I really love the two-tier model when putting your pricing and offers together. So, if you go to my website, piano in 21days.com, you can click enroll at the top, and you'll see the sales page with all the information and the two different tiers you can sign up for. My bottom end package is $500, and that is just the course. And then the top end package is $1,000, and it's the course and basically everything else I've ever offered. So it's additional like bonus courses and also some interaction. And that model has worked really well for me, and it's worked well for others, where you have a base price with your course, and then you have a higher, more premium price with your course and a lot of additional things. And most people do end up going for the higher end option, with the
Mm,
caveat that actually, I've got a sales funnel in place that offers a discount. So actually, most of my sales come at $800, because inside of my sales funnel, they can get a $200 off discount for the high end package. It's $100 off for the low end package. So most of my sales actually come at 400 or 800, and that's been
mm,
pretty effective. But I wanted to mention that because if you go to just the forward facing website, that's the pricing you see. So we have bonus courses, a lot of which I've collaborated with other people, because basically everything that I have to teach about piano is in my course, right? That's one of my pitches. Like, look, I'm not that great, right? Everything I have to teach you is in 21 days. But people are finishing the course and they're like, well, I would love to play some jazz now, or I would love to play some classical now that I've gotten these foundations. And so I've outsourced those additional courses. Um, that are bonuses. And then specifically what you asked about in terms of support, coaching, we do offer unlimited, just like email support. People can reach out to us. I have somebody on my team that manages that. I'll go live for Q&A once a month inside the community. We tried to bring the community off of Facebook for a couple years, and that didn't work great. And I think it's my demographic. 80% of my students are over 60 years old, and they just
mm.
love Facebook. So we have a Facebook group they get access to, the live Q&A, and they can send us videos anytime of them playing if they want feedback.
Cool. So I'm silent now because I'm struggling. And the reason I'm struggling, you, the listener, doesn't know this, but before Jacques and I started this episode, I had this big list of all these things I want to talk about. It's like 6 hours worth of podcasting. And now, as he's been talking, I've written like 7 things I want to deep dive on, and these alone will be the whole episode. So I'm trying to decide what of these myriad gems you just dropped I want to dive into. I guess the first thing, well, shit, I'm curious. So with these bonus courses, do you license them? Did you give them free leads in exchange for them for free? Did you buy them outright? Do you give a royalty? Like how'd you set up the structure with those?
Yeah, so there's several ways, as you alluded to, there's several ways you can do it. And I looked when I was first doing this, I was looking at all the different ways I could do it, and just like giving them a royalty, a percentage of sales, kind of makes sense. That makes way more sense to the other person, not to me. And the biggest disadvantage, well, one is like I'm selling this as a package deal, so it's hard to break apart the success of their course. And the other thing is I wasn't looking to marry somebody long term, right? I've got my wife, I'm not marrying anybody else. And so I wanted to be more of a one-time business deal, right? So that I knew was going to work way better for me. And when I'm making deals, I want to, look out for myself. And so the way that, and I've seen people do it successfully in all the ways, but for me, I was like very, very firm on, hey, I'm going to pay you one time for this, and I am going to own this asset once you create it. They, in every case, like they recorded raw footage, and me and my team handled the video editing to make it easy
Nice.
on them. They handled the curriculum, and recording it, and then handed it off to me. I paid them one time, and now it's mine. And I've paid anywhere from, I think, $1,000 on the low end for a course to $10,000 on the high end.
Did you negotiate some like exclusivity, or are they free to sell those courses on their own site standalone, or what's the sitch?
Yeah, so they can't. The content is not necessarily proprietary, but the title is. So the majority of these courses have the words "in 21 days" in the title. I have melody and ear training in 21 days, classical and sheet music in 21 days, jazz, blues, and cocktail piano in 21 days. And so they can't go sell those courses as is, but they could re-record them with the same content and call it like how to learn jazz piano or whatever, and that would be fine.
Okay, cool. And do you? I'm diving deep on this because it's something I've been thinking about myself anyway. Do you send them the leads for anyone who like takes the bonus? Do you say who this person is and you can go to their website to learn more about them? Like what's the kind of like lead trade-off situation?
Yeah, that's I'm not really a stingy business person either. And so I always say, like, there's 3 different people that I've used that are still in courses inside of my program today. And I'm always like, hey, if you enjoyed that, like, go check out Steve's stuff, go check out Joe's stuff. Like, no problem. Like, they're competitors, sure, but like if their style, like people are gonna pay me $500, $800, whatever, if they don't like trust me and want to learn from me. Like, they're already inside my program. And so if they, if they've learned from me and then they take another course and they just really resonate with another person, like, I'm not going to hold back. Like, yes, please keep pursuing this and go see what they have to offer as well.
Nice. And with your guarantee, I remember from, I guess it was that episode, it was 209 from your podcast, right? The re-air where you give the step-by-step.
Yeah.
Is that 209? Let me just make sure I'm quoting it right. I'm checking my little notes. I think it's 209. I'm going to mark a cut. This is too much faff. I'm going to just straight up check my notes. It is 209. Okay, let me mark a cut real quick.
It is 209.
Yeah.
Come on, let's keep it real. Just leave it in.
Really? Okay. Jacques says to leave it in. So we're leaving in all this shit, including me saying I'm going to mark a cut. So 209 concluded.
I don't know the brand like persona you try to give off, but I try to give off like super authentic and like whatever happens, right? And so like,
sure.
One time my dog, like I was doing a live Q&A for my online course coaching clients. My dog comes in, bumps into this keyboard that's behind me. It falls over, nearly like crushes her. And I'm like, guys, did you just see that? Like, that was insane. So Stuff happens.
All right, then we'll leave this, but I will cut the silence. That's my compromise. I'm cutting the
Fair.
silence. I'll leave this, and it's a lesson for all of us in authenticity. So, all right, so getting back to it, in 209, you talked about your whole like step-by-step process thing, and you were talking about how having a really sexy guarantee is something you really strongly recommend. And given that your piano course, the hook, well, you're raising eyebrows, so maybe I'm misrepresenting you.
Nope.
Okay. All right. So piano course, your whole hook is this like 80-20, 21 days, be good enough. So do you have something where it's like you learn to play in 21 days or your money back? Or like what's your guarantee situation for the piano course?
I haven't really messed with my offer in quite some time for piano in 21 days. I created it over 10 years ago,
Mhm.
and it's, if it's not broke, don't fix it. So I'm due to go back and tweak some things. And I think that a guarantee is one, from my experience, people can be very scared to promise too much on the guarantee because they think people are going to take advantage of them. I see that all the time. And what I don't see all the time is people actually, taking
Mhm.
advantage of guarantees so much that it cripples the business. The only scenario where I see that happening is if the product isn't any good, right? And so I think people way more often than not, they err too far on the conservative side. Like, oh, I'll give a 3-day guarantee, right?
Yep.
You have 3 days to get your money back. And from what I've seen, that's just not necessary. I would go minimum 30 days. You can also get creative with your guarantees. It doesn't just have to be, a 30-day unconditional guarantee. You can have, and you can stack guarantees. You could do that, and you could also have a conditional guarantee. If you do X, Y, and Z and you don't get A, B, C result, then I'll give you a refund, but you got to be able to prove that some way. So I think that a really good guarantee can really take a lot of the risk off of the buyer in the buying decision. Right now, I just have that 30-day guarantee in place. I would like to possibly extend it. I've even heard of people doing lifetime guarantees that has worked really, really well. So that could be something that I try one day.
Cool. For your funnel, and I'm just watching my time. I'm like, dude, Zach, we're not here to talk about the piano course. You got a lot you want to talk about today. But I got to ask this last little bit. So what's your whole funnel flow, including what sounds like a deadline funnel discount for the piano course? Is it top of funnel mostly from YouTube, or where are your leads coming from primarily?
Yes, YouTube. And by the way, you're not going to offend me. Like we can talk whatever. We can talk about travel. We can talk about like life in Estonia, which like I've never been, but that sounds really cool. Whatever you want, you're not going to offend me. So my funnel is actually like one of the last pieces in place that I had to put in that really made it work for my business. I didn't really know what a funnel was for the longest time. I was very confused by the term, but yeah, I've got leads coming in, or I've got people coming in from YouTube. They watch my YouTube videos, they like it, for whatever reason, they jump over to my website, and then the pitch on my website has always been a free workbook.
The
When I
5-day
first
one I see.
launched, what's that?
The 5-day workbook I see on
The
here.
5-day workbook. Yeah, when I
Cool.
first started, the first couple of years, it was 8 days, but I realized because it's like the first days of my actual course, just in a workbook format. And eventually, I was like, "This is probably too much. Like, this is almost 50% of the course right here for free." So I switched it to 5 days, and it's been 5 days forever. And so a lot of times, if somebody wants to set up a simple funnel to sell a course, one of the most effective is a webinar funnel, and you pitch some sort of workshop, webinar, web class, um, and I promote that a lot, and people are like, "Well, wait, why aren't you doing that for Piano in 21 Days?" The reason is I've just always had this workbook, and like all of my YouTube videos say, "Hey, if you want to learn more, go download this workbook." So you opt in for the workbook. On the thank you page, you can go into an evergreen webinar, and that's your first buying opportunity is at the end of that webinar. But if you decide not to attend the webinar buy, you're still going through the funnel. And it's a classic product launch formula style of evergreen launch. You're familiar with PLF, Jeff Walker? Pre-launch content, value videos leading up to a launch period. And my launch period it's a 5-day quote unquote open cart, open close cart, but that's where the discount happens. So you have 5 days where you can get the discount. It's not the availability because you can go to my website, you can buy anytime. It's just at a higher price point. So It's kind of an evergreen webinar in combination with product launch formula, evergreen funnel that is just in place, runs. It's been the same funnel for years and years and years, and it works.
And so you'll use Deadline Funnel to trigger their evergreen launch window where they can buy the regular pricing for $400 instead of 500, or the premium for 800 instead of 1,000. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Deadline funnel. Absolutely. I've used deadline funnel since 2016. And like, I don't know that I've ever tweaked the settings or the whatever. Like, it just works. It's great.
Nice. And then do you post purchase for the lower price point upsell into the higher price point?
Yes. Inside, if they buy right, exactly. If they buy the lower price point, we do get a fair amount of people that eventually upgrade because they don't want to spend, that much money without getting any results. They're like, well, I still get the course, right? But once they get the course, either they decide they want the support or they want the additional courses, they can right there inside the platform upgrade.
Cool. And do you have, like, it sounds like you don't. I was going to ask if you have a lower ticket offer or if it's just literally eyeball on YouTube into the lead magnet. They get some valuable stuff. They get your funnel. They buy the $400 thing or they don't. And then goodbye. And then sell them some stuff later maybe and give them valuable content later. That's like basically the funnel.
I personally don't like low ticket. It's a different type of person. I put a lot of content out there free in both of my businesses. And if you're a low ticket type of person, then like that's you consume my free stuff, with my online course guy brand, my cheapest program is $6,000. And I don't plan to have anything cheaper. Like, I have a ton of free content. That is by design in both of my businesses.
Cool. Yeah, I love this. It's really cool. And I love that you pulled it off too. Like, there are certain, I often tell people, like, what's the kind of course I would buy on Udemy versus the kind of course I would not buy on Udemy. And I've literally bought piano courses on Udemy. So the fact that to Zach, a piano course is like a Udemy course, the kind of thing that I don't necessarily need to get the really good curated one, but I think it's that hook, that 21-day hook, and then people building a relationship with you on YouTube and stuff. I'm guessing that's why. But I'll ask you. I should ask you. Why do you think people buy from you rather than buying a $20 Udemy piano course?
Ooh, you get that. You teed me up perfectly for one of my favorite rants. You probably don't have it in Estonia, but here, where I live, there was a fast food restaurant that started in the city that I live in, Baton Rouge, Louisiana. You ever heard of Raising Cane's?
I have. Yeah.
Excellent. They sell chicken fingers. And it's a wildly popular fast food restaurant. I think it's like the fastest growing fast food restaurant. It's, I went to Hawaii a year ago. They have them there. They have them in Las Vegas. But all they sell is chicken fingers pretty much. And you can get chicken fingers like everywhere. I've got 2 young kids, 6 and 8. Like, every kid's menu has chicken fingers. Like, every random shack has chicken fingers. So why is Raising Cane's the fastest growing fast food chain? And it's not because they're chicken fingers, it's because of their special sauce. They have this sauce that have you had it before? I mean, it's so terrible for you, but
yeah, my parents in Highlands Ranch, Colorado, they've got a Raising Cane's. I think of it as like quintessential American fast food. I drive by and I'm like, Raising Cane's, we go Raising Cane's chicken, but I've never actually had it. Gluten-free, try to avoid vegetable oil. It doesn't seem like Raising Cane's is the kind of place I should go.
Nope. You probably should stay away because it is absolutely delicious and there's a lot of those ingredients in there. And so it would tempt you to want more if you got it. So just stay away. That's my advice.
Yeah, it'd be a slippery slope for me.
My point is, like, everybody sells chicken fingers.
Yeah.
But the reason Raising Cane's is successful is because of their special sauce. That is, it's really, you can't replicate it. And so, if you want to be able to have a course that you sell for 20, 30, 40 times higher than you could on Udemy, that's really the key, is having the special sauce and not just being generic, right? The people selling piano lessons on Udemy are selling chicken fingers. It's something they can get pretty much anywhere, right? But you got to figure out what's going to set you apart. A lot of times that can be you as the creator and your personality. But unless you're like really special, like, it's usually got to have a little more than that. And like you said, I've got the main hook right into my brand name, and that's worked out really well. Piano in 21 days. And then the other thing that I have that works really well is I have my 5-step song learning process is part of my special sauce as well, because playing piano is literally like, it's playing songs. It's not drilling scales. It's not anything else. Being able to play the piano is playing songs. And learning new songs on the piano can be very challenging. Even if you know how to read sheet music, it can still take a long time to play a new song. So I've come in, hey, I've got this 5-step song learning process. Once you know this process, you can learn songs in 5 minutes instead of months. And that's really appealing to people.
So it sounds like the secret sauce is that in both fronts, it's that condensed 80-20 attached to a time, like a time expectation. That's the secret sauce here.
Yes.
Cool. So to dive into some of the metrics, I'm curious if you know, I know that this business is a bit older, but do you know your metrics on like, say, your YouTube video click-through rate, your lead magnet sign-up rate, your evergreen funnel conversion rate, and your 30-day value per subscriber? Do you know any of those without having to dig super deep?
So I don't actually do much inside the business anymore. I've got an
Hmm.
operations manager that kind of runs it. I'm not super passionate about the piano stuff anymore. So those numbers certainly exist. It would take me a minute to dig them up. I can tell you the funnel conversion rate is around 3%, 3.5% on the funnel conversion rate. So if we get 100 leads a day, then we're going to get 3 to 3.5 sales a day, which works really well. Sometimes we'll dip down to 40 or 50, but we know, same conversion rate. So we're going to get 1-2 sales a day with that conversion rate.
Okay, cool. Well, then we'll take the new track, because I do really want to dig into this thing about scaling. The fact that you've got someone in charge of operations and that you have these different businesses, I think that'd be cool to chat about. I guess like maybe before we go on to the next little phase of the interview is, in terms of your traffic, what would you say, besides having your really nice secret sauce? I'm pretty sure if I said what's the number one thing you did well, you'd probably say something related to that. So that aside, traffic-wise, traffic and funnel, no, not funnel, traffic only wise, what do you think the thing is that you did best?
And we're talking for piano in 21 days, right?
Yeah, but I would be interested in hearing the answer for the course business too.
Yeah, so I actually created an avenue for content. I think I like content marketing as my preferred traffic source. By the very nature of you having a podcast, I know you're not completely against content marketing. Some people think that they can just run paid ads and that everything's going to work great. But there's success stories there, but I've seen way more people just burn money with ads. So first and foremost, the fact that I picked content marketing, and then I picked a channel that worked well for the product that I have to sell. I'm selling piano lessons via video, and so I chose to do content marketing on a long form video channel, right? I don't think a podcast would have done very well for piano in 21 days, for example. So it's a lot about what channel you choose to go with, first choosing content marketing and then which channel within content marketing, and then like actually putting out content. Like I want to say consistent because that's what I tell people to do, but through the years, I haven't been very consistent, right? I probably would have been a lot more successful if I had been consistent, but I did put up videos, and I've got 50, 60, 70 videos, something like that. And it is the lifeblood of the whole business, even today, even though I don't put out new videos today on YouTube. And then once you take all those steps, the last piece is valuable content people want to see. I've got a video over 3 million views, and that's because it's got a hook. Like it's almost clickbaity. Learn piano in 4 minutes is the name, but the content backs it up. Like the one of the top comments left under that video is something like, I don't even want to learn piano. I'm not sure why I'm even here right now, but this was amazing, or something. Like there's value there. Like I'm actually showing people a new way to learn piano in just 4 minutes that has, it's gotten results for sure.
Awesome. Yeah, this is really cool to think about. And I do love that hook. I'm going to check it out later to see the hook in action. All right. So I just looked at the clock and I realized, oh shit, we're like where we were supposed to be ending. And Jacques has a call in a minute. So Jacques, before we go, I want to ask you this. When you're thinking of your trajectory from the piano course through your current course and like teaching this online course business formula and the Genesis stuff, and like thinking of all the scaling steps over the years, what do you think your biggest, like if you're imagining going from the 6-figure to 7-figure mark or whatever, what do you think the biggest thing you had to learn and overcome and do well was to, I guess, get through that kind of mid-tier step?
Outsourcing.
It's a good, nice mic drop moment.
Yeah,
How do you decide?
it's so easy. Like, and people are so, I mentioned earlier, people are scared of like the guarantee, but people are very scared of outsourcing because of trust issues, because of like, how do I find the right person? I don't have the money to pay them. I don't want to give them the keys to, certain things like logins and things like that. And I don't know that somebody can do it as well as me. But as far as scaling goes, if you find the right people, it is unbelievable how amazing it can be to just sit at the top as the CEO and have your team run things.
Mm,
It's like it's people talk about it, but it's even still vastly underrated. It's such a key part of it, but it's not easy finding the right people, managing them, keeping them motivated, things like that. But it is definitely been huge for my businesses.
wow, cool. I gotta have you back just to talk about that. So before we go, is there anything you wish? I mean, there are a lot of things I wish I asked, but I didn't. But anything you want to add before we go?
Um, let's just say, like, I think momentum forward is a big key. So even if you are unsure of the next steps, um, or are getting discouraged, like one of the biggest keys is like not stopping and continuing to move forward. Whether you're just getting started or you're established and you're just trying to get traction, like keep moving forward is a big key.
Awesome. And I think I saw that you have this like formula for growing 6 and 7 figure online course businesses that you reverse engineered. Where would I go to find that?
Thanks for that, Zach. Yeah, I appreciate it. I put together a little 35-minute training that's totally free on basically it's the things that like 6 and 7 figure course creators are doing that you likely are not doing. I look at it kind of like a puzzle, and you've got to have all the right pieces of the puzzle and in the right order to be able to finish the puzzle. And I've had, over 200 course creators on my own podcast. And so this is based way more on just my stuff, but I've noticed these common threads, these common puzzle pieces and the order you put them in among the very successful course creators. And I put that together in a 35-minute training showing those things and how it all works. So you can find that at ocformula.com, stands for online course formula. So ocformula.com, totally free 35-minute training.
Awesome. Well, I will be sure to go check it out. And one more time for everyone, the name of your podcast?
The Online Course Show. Very basic. The Online Course Show.
Lovely. All right. Well, I'm going to hit stop here in Riverside. Let's not disconnect. But Jacques, great to chat, and see you around.
Thanks, Zach.
All right. Well, Jacques is now gone. We had some Riverside issues, but gosh, what a great interview. I feel like it's yet another lesson for me that I need to either change these interviews to be like roughly 6 hours long or really trim the scope. But I marked a bunch of great gems in that one. So hopefully you took as much out of it as I did. Let me share with you real quick some of my favorite highlights from that episode. So cool takeaway number one, looking at my Fathom highlights, is the packaging and selling the outcome, what he called his special sauce. I really liked how he managed to sell something that would normally be very commoditized for what I would consider a high ticket price point for a direct to consumer product, solely because number one, people liked him because they met him on YouTube. But number two, he's selling that outcome of be able to just walk up to a piano and play it in 3 weeks. Pretty freaking cool. Big takeaway number two, him having a nice and what at this point could be considered like standard or basic funnel in place to allow people to sign up for a lead magnet, go through the basic funnel, be promoted the course at a discount with a limited time window, and just buy the thing. He, in a different interview, talked about how doing that brought him from $1,000 a month to $10,000 a month pretty much overnight by having that actual urgency rather than just letting people buy the course whenever they want. Takeaway number three from this interview with Jacques, I really loved how he went about licensing courses from others as bonuses. And this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately. And I really like that he sought to just pay for it once and pay them a lump sum that sounds good to them, still send them promo with leads, but handling the actual content production and stuff so that they get to just share their knowledge and he takes it from there. I thought that was a very cool model that he shared there. So if you want to find all the links from this episode and the show notes and the highlights and all that stuff, you can go to ftcreator.com/episode 6. ftcreator.com/episode and then the number 6. And as always, if you enjoyed this episode, I would love a like, a subscribe, a comment, a recommendation, an email, whatever the thing is. Love to hear from you, and you can sign up for future episode updates at ftcreator.com. And until the next episode, see you around.